international grant work. But to start with, I have our Dean of Research, Dr. Anthony Carpi, is here with us. He's going to start with a few words of welcome.
Good morning, guys. I've know some of you and just met a couple of you, so great to see you guys on this call. As Hung En said, I'm Dean of Research, International Partnerships and Student Professional Advancement, and really glad to be hearing about this session. About 4 years ago, I think it was almost exactly 4 years ago, that after talking for a while with Hung En, we created this office because of a couple of reasons: really increasing interest in potential projects overseas and relationships, and thinking about our reputation outside of the US. And we've really learned a lot in those 4 years. On top of the strong national reputation that we have, what at times I think both of us have been a little bit surprised at is how strong of an international reputation the college has, and how in a number of different venues people know of the work that's going on at John Jay and really look to us as a potential collaborator and partner. And we have the office has done a great job of working with new partners, developing new partnerships and new relationships, really in South America and Africa and Asia and many different parts of the country. So it's been a great boon to the college to learn of different work and to think about how we could get involved. International work is really rewarding, but has its own challenges. I know some of you know Hung En Sung. Hung En is a full professor in our criminal justice department, has been director of this office since we established it 4 years ago, and has really done a really fantastic job of growing the portfolio, negotiating relationships, growing our presence internationally. I've seen him in action many times, and he really does a fantastic job of developing, of speaking with folks, learning about needs, and thinking about how we can partner with them in developing international projects. So I am really happy you're all here. I think this is going to be an interesting session. I regret that I can't stay for it all. I'm going to stay for a few minutes, but I'm going to have to leave a bit early because of another conflict. But I think you'll learn a lot, and I really look forward to potentially working with you guys on international applications and international projects in the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to Hung En.
Thank you, Anthony. So I'm going to use about 40 minutes to talk a little bit about the background of our work, the kind of support that we're now providing to our faculty members, and then we can use the remaining 10, 15 minutes for Q&A, or for just sharing, right? Ideas, experiences, and I'm going to start with my screen. Just give me a second. All right. So as Anthony said, I think we started to talk about this in fall of 2019, and boom, the official beginning was in spring 2020. I had the good luck of, I was right after I started, I took over this new position, the COVID pandemic hit. So, I spent the first 2 years doing this wonderful, interesting, fun international work from my basement. But even with that, we were able to push things forward. And, from the very beginning, Um, I think Anthony, we're we created this mission for ourselves, and that is there are a few goals that we want to attain in this effort. First, we want to build very strategic research partnership with universities, government agencies, or even NGOs in other countries. And we want these alliances to be attractive enough so that international donors will be interested in invest on these partnerships. Um, and then, of course, we intend to promote the great, excellent work of our colleagues. Now we're doing that through our social media. We do have, an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Facebook account. We're trying to do that in Spanish, but hopefully in the future we can add a few more languages to it. And of course, helping faculty investigators to develop their own projects is one of the prime missions that we have. And then what kind of projects have been developed in these past 3, 4 years? I have a few examples to share with you. Um, uh, Debbie Quetzel and Jeff Mello have been, they have formed the powerhouse in international work. I think together uh, they total around 2 point some million dollars in international funding in just these 3 years. One of the most the highest visibility is their work among prison inmates in Central America. So now they are helping the State Department to assess the status of rule of law and human rights in those places. It's not easy. If you follow those international news, uh, prison riots and other crazy things happen all the time. But they were able to partner with a very credible local university, and go to those very pretty dangerous places. And they have collected data um, among almost 6,000 inmates. We are going to see great papers coming out from this project, and that and then not all international projects involve travel. Julia Julia Sabelina, who's now in Alabama, she started something really interesting. Um, Again, working for the State Department, they gave her the task of evaluating all 45 countries in the Western Hemisphere. I'm sorry, it should be 35. That's a wrong answer. 35 countries in the Western Hemisphere, including Latin America and the Caribbean. They come up with a very complex but robust way of assessing these countries by their compliance with international treaty obligations and also the resilience of those societies against corruption. Uh, and then they uh, use the method and the data that they collected. They created a dashboard which is super interactive. People can go up there uh, and do their own little analysis. One can rank countries by different categories or dimensions of governance, or we can compare performance across different countries. And her work was so impactful that she actually won 2 awards. One is it's more about the design of the dashboard, but the other is about impact. It's international impact, right? It's the Anthem Award, which is a sort of Oscar award in the cyberspace that was given to her in March last year. And I still have the box of statue. It's like the Oscar little things, in my office, and our partners from Brazil will come to pick them up later this year. So it's done from her office, probably from her home, but she had to build a network of international researchers. People from Brazil, Peruvian work teaching in the at the University of Osaka, Japan, were all involved in this. So international projects can take different shapes and sizes, and then you can always find the right thing for you. And this is something that I'm doing now with the support of Professor Jason Rivera from the Department of Public Management, and also from the support of two PhD students that I have, Ken Quick and Irvin Contreras. We're helping to build the capacity for emergency management among cops in El Salvador. So all these law enforcement agents, they know how to coerce, how to arrest, how to use their firearms. But when that pandemic broke out, they were mobilized to help deal with the crisis. So, all right, they went out there to the streets. They tried to coerce. They use their firearms as usual. They try to arrest people to make people comply, and that was a bad thing. And so now we're in the process of helping them and some other government agencies to do things the right way. And so, why would we be interested in this? I think there could be so many different reasons, right? Um, it could be intellectual. We're all researchers. We have all published something in our career, and then you always want to know whether the things that you promoted, the things that you teach in your classroom, um, are valid in other cultures. That in itself is something so, so, so interesting. Oh, it's always good to see that your work is cited by people outside the United States, or to see your work uh, being used in projects, problem solving projects overseas. It's always rewarding, right? 'Cause, that allows you to have a connection with the real world in a way that you never expect. You never expected. So, and then being able to work with collaborators from other countries, being able to uh, teach, to give talks in other countries. It was simply because of my involvement in all this international stuff. And just last year, I got invitation to teach and to give talks in five different countries. Last year, I computed. I spent a total of 3 months overseas. It's tough. It's exhausting physically, but then socially and intellectually, it's fun. I never thought that my career could turn they I could have a turn of this sort. Now I'm seeing my colleagues, those people that I've been working with very closely in the last 2, 3 years, uh, doing the same things. And then being able to help people in need in other countries, it's always rewarding. I've learned this. My mid-age crisis started the night when I was notified that I was promoted to full professor, and then I thought, it's 10 years of effort, all for this. And I grew up in Argentina, so I took my TOEFL exam and my GRE. I struggled. I came to the States to all. It was all for this. But my when I took my sabbatical leave and I went to Taiwan to teach for a semester, then my eyes opened there. I realized the things that I know, the very few things that I know can help people in a very immediate way outside the United States. Then I decided, and I asked myself, would I want to keep crunching number, publishing those papers that very few people read, and then keep doing it for the next 20 years? Or is there something else that I can do to help people? And let me tell you, going out, just live this ivory tower, you'll see how you can help people in need. And then, uh, receiving funding support from those international donors is always exciting. I think now, NIJ, for those of you who are working in the area of criminal justice, it's doing a better job right now. I think now their grants, the grants that they give out, uh, increase in probably in tens of $1,000s or in half a million. But once you are out there in the international arena, sometimes I feel that a lot of time the unit of accounting is million. So either you get a $1 million to do this, 1.5 million to do that, half a million to do this. So the amount for reasonable reasons, right? You'll be traveling, you have to build your own teams. A lot of time in other countries, there'll be people working full time for you. So, but that experience is enriching. It's educational too, and then you get to travel. For those of you who like traveling, that may be a good incentive. Um, so to start with, you have all of us are an expert in something. So know your interests, know your expertise. If we have learned some second or third language at some point of our lives, when we were in high school, whatever, uh, to do this well, you don't need to be proficient in a second language. But knowing something always helps. Being able to say hello, how are you, and in a second, third, fourth language always help. And and then think about those scholars and researchers that you have met in those in national conferences. Those people coming from other countries. Yeah. Do you share any common interest with them? Have they ever told you things that are tough to resolve, but that you thought from the very beginning that you might have some good ideas to help them, right? Talk to them. So, and then some of us may have some fascination for a particular country or region. I always have that fascination for Japan, even though I haven't done anything in that country, right? When I go to Japan, I don't go to the big cities. I don't go, yes, I've been to Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, but I will spend time in those small fishing villages, meeting people and trying their food and watching their daily lives. So think about, and then of course I grew up in Argentina. Latin America is always on my radar. Think about what your passion is, and you can really make your international endeavors something fun, rewarding. And one big thing, just Anthony just put it very beautifully. I I was shocked when I started to see John Jay's reputation in other countries. Now, I hope I'm not exaggerating too much, but I think we're very close to that. After having worked in Latin America for all this, probably longer, right? 6, 7 years, I can say that if I want to knock on the door of any minister, I can do it, to have an audience, if not with the person, with his or her deputy or with someone from his own. It's not because of me. No one knows me. I haven't done any serious research in the past 3, 4 years. I mean, but when people hear that it's John Jay, a rep from John Jay is coming, they pay attention to that. I have met with, yes, attorney generals, ministers, and if it were not because of the pandemic, and we had planned to bring President Carol Mason to Honduras to sign an agreement between their Ministry of Justice and John Jay. But of course, the pandemic derailed everything. But that's what I'm saying. You have to be proud of the great work that our colleagues are doing, have done, uh, because people know us not through what we as individuals have accomplished, but through the collective and this very compelling reputation of John Jay as an institution. All right, so in Brussels, there are two kinds of international projects, right? We have problem-solving projects and research projects. Problem-solving projects tend to take the form of capacity building or any kinds of justice reform. Or in the field of climate change, it's about changing people's behavior, transforming communities' way of doing things. Um, and in capacity building, it's always building capacity within the state or in the civil society, right? And the main sources of funding are, USAID is a big one. When they fund, they give a lot of money. When I started, I was called in. They asked me to take over a project because the PI, Professor Javier Osorio, who's a genius, he moved to Arizona, and there was this $5 million grant project running in Central America. It's a regional project. So I went there, I took over, and then in one of the meetings, my grant officer supervisor, right, from USID, kept telling me, "Oh, professor, you don't need to submit this report because yours is a small grant." Okay, okay, 5 million, right? And then, professor, you don't have to, comply with this because yours is a small grant. And after a while, I said, Rosa Maria, I know that mine is a small grant, but it's the largest I've ever managed. Can you tell me how big is the second smallest project that you are now supervising? And she was like, I'm also supervising a $30 million project, on human rights in the region. So that's the kind of things that USID does. Then we have the State Department. Um, it has many different bureaus, branches, right? That goes from democracy and human rights to law enforcement, to conservation, climate and anything, everything, and regional bureaus. And so their their grants tend to be somewhat smaller, but still big, right? Sometimes you can find projects close to what we can call, research thing, right? Like the Prism project run by Debbie and Jeff. It's about collecting data. It's about analyzing data. It's about reporting findings, right? So that sounds like a research project, but most of the time, it's about, money coming from the State Department. It's about building capacity or solving problems in the country. And NSF and NIH sponsor funding programs for international collaborations. Uh, we haven't done any of those. I promise I will start to dig that information and to start to circulate real-time announcements coming from those funding sources. And of course, the UN, all the development banks, the World Bank, even though they work directly with countries, so they don't give grants to a university. Sometimes they do run small, very small demonstration projects, right? And they are always uh, looking for consultants, hiring consultants for targeted and very specific tasks. So that's something we do subscribe to something called the UN Marketplace, where all those announcements are provided. It's pretty expensive, but very soon we are going to start to make that information available to faculty members who are interested in this. And then, of course, we have private foundations. As I said, if you want to receive that weekly alert, please send an email to Marilyn Esteves. It's M. Esteves All right. I keep repeating this in the next few minutes. And then she's doing that. We're still learning how best organize this information, right? And and there's one program that I think everyone should know about. It's a good starting point for anything that you want to do. The U.S. Embassy runs this program in every capital city in the world, right? It's called Public Diplomacy Small Grants, or PAS. It's an annual thing. It gets renewed every year. The size of the award varies according to the population and also the diplomatic value of the countries, right? But usually it ranges from 5,000 to 50,000. In larger countries, you can find awards up to 10,000. This year, in Argentina, they just opened that for a month and then they closed it. It's strange. They gave out one award at 250, but usually, 8, 10 awards, but with smaller amounts of money. What can you do with that? You can organize conferences, start tiny, smaller pilot projects, community campaigns. We're always working with a local institution. It could be uh, a university, an NGO, and some of the thing, every year in most places, the local embassy would set priority areas for the year. But human rights, all these issues of equality, conservation, and sustainability, democracy governance, that includes public safety or citizen security, and anything related to music, culture, you know. So it's almost everything that we do here in John Jay. So I would strongly encourage you to that. The application form tends to be very short. It's usually a 5-page form that you have to fill out. And then we have to really take advantage of it. And another resource that we have is that PSC CUNY thing, that research award that we have, right? You can use the money to pay for your international travel. You can hire people, your collaborators, your helpers uh, from overseas, or you can buy data from other countries. And I personally, I have took advantage of that. And so far, I've been working here for almost 18 years. I've got 7 awards. Just I use that money for to build pilot data, preliminary data. I was able to build 3 major grant applications based on that. So, it's very helpful. And then we have to remember another thing, right? 6,000, $12,000 doesn't sound a lot. But once you're outside of the United States, you can do a lot of things with the money, right? Guido is now there in Argentina. I think, with $12,000, you can do really quite a lot of things in that corner of the world. So never underestimate this, the potential of what all these PSA CUNY Research Awards can lead you to. All right. So we started in 2020 and we started to build. I must admit that I told Anthony, and he agreed to that. In the first few years, our operations were we intentionally kept a low profile. We were very targeted in our effort, for example, in engaging faculty members. So we identify once we identify opportunities, we'll go to the person that we think will be appropriate for that. It was simply because of resources. Uh, this has been uh, an office of one person, with a very, very, very tiny budget, and for 3 years. But now, but we were able to grow our portfolio. But now we decided to go public in that sense this year. So, and we are willing to work now that I see Aida here. It is our intention to work with every department in the college. With our department of modern languages, we have benefited from the amazing translation skills of our students and faculty members. We will want to keep doing that. Actually, one of a graduate from our translation programs, is now a full-time uh, administrator in my team, and she handles translation and also, Aida, I don't know whether you know Daniela Ayala. She's preparing for her law school exams, but whatever. We want to grow that kind of connections with every department, so that this doesn't remain an exercise for a few, but we really want to change the core identity of John Jay as a global institution. So I think it's your time. We're ready to help with wherever we can. And as I said, we uh, we try to build strategic partners in other countries. We started with the Western Hemisphere simply because it's close to us. There are more people who can speak Spanish at Zhangjiang, but we're not going to limit ourselves here. Now, Professor Gohar Petrosian is helping us to break into Africa and Europe and Central Asia. Those are the places, continents that we want to have a presence to. I think very soon actually, probably starting this year, we'll start sending speakers or presenters to Central Asia. But in the past, it has been Central and South America. Uh, we're changing the way we build partners. We used to just allow faculty members to come to us and say, "Hey, I have a friend from this who's a dean in this university. Can we sign an agreement?" But now, from starting from this year, because then we realize that over all these 2 or 3 decades, so many MOUs or cooperative agreements have been signed that most of them become ghost uh, partnerships. We don't know who has the actual copies of the agreement, who's overseeing those partnerships, whatever. And then we also realize from a few very bad experiences that there are people in other countries who use this to grow their own CVs just for that purpose, right? So now, starting from this year, we'll encourage people to first start with some exchanges, collaborations. It could be just a webinar, or some joint grant submissions. So, and then after this initial testing, and after we got the conclusion that this is a good partner, it's a credible partner, we'll go and sign some legal documents with the institution. And so, I think that this is a bad metaphor. So, cohabitation is required before marriage in this starting from this year. And but from our past experiences in Latin America, it has been super successful for us. If you can see this, these are the key partners that we have in Latin America. Uh, and look at this, these are the funds requested. These are the funds awarded. You know, um, Again, you know, it's not only about us; it's about who we're working with, and we want to make all of this compelling. attractive alliances um, to help. So if you have, the day you come, you identify funding opportunities that's most suitable for you, you come to my office. Now I have three people working together. And so we can help you. Actually, if you're talking about Latin America, we can help you identify, make the connections that you need. Um, we have the confidence now that can go knock on people's doors, and 8 out of 10 times they'll open the doors for us. Right? Again, it's one of the biggest assets that we have is John J's brand. So all you have to do is to start checking for opportunities. We'll help you build partnerships and help you to strategize, and then we'll help you write your grant proposal. We can even help you write sections of the grant proposal. I've done that a lot in the past few years, but we just want you to become another international investigator out there helping people, solving problems. And this is the team. Marilyn, again, if you want to receive that weekly alert, send an email to Marilyn. I can help you. With the planning of the outline of your thing. Pretty sure hand. She's such an experienced grant writer. She can help you with. She will not write the proposal for you, of course. She can help you think through how to write it. And Susie is the queen in everything we award. And all right, so that's more or less what I have to share with you. That we still have 20 minutes. I think we can. I'm open to questions and comments and then ideas. Um, I have a question. Let me. Okay, Guido, I'll give you. But Aida, I have a question. How many in all those translation programs that we have, right? How many languages are engaged? Just Spanish, or do we have other languages too?
Just Spanish for now.
Okay, all right. We have attempted to break into Africa a few times. Half of African continents, half of African countries speak French. So we always we have a group of good friends who are members of the French gendarmeries, and we always go to France and then down to Africa. But we'll figure out, to work in those places. I think Guido and then Frank.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the presentation. Very clear, very useful as usual. And my question goes to where I usually go, and I think this may be of interest to Frank as well. If I got it right, you're also an adjunct or a part-timer, and to any other part-timers. My question is, what can we part-timers do to be a part of this? To what extent can the office help us, and what might be the differences? Because oftentimes when I see research opportunities within John Jay, there's a big difference between whether you are a full-timer or not. That would be my approach. Thank you.
Yes. So I'll answer your question and then go to Frank, right? It's not a John Jay's. It could be. It's an RF rule that only full timers can be PIs, full time employees or faculty members, right? Full time students don't count there. So for adjuncts, I think I will encourage you to, once you identify an opportunity, go talk to a full timer. Try to collaborate with some full timer, and I think more than one person would be willing to collaborate, to explore all these amazing opportunities together. Yes, there's that rule. It's coming from RF uh, more than anything. Yeah, Frank.
Okay. Great presentation. I think you pressed a lot of really important points, such as international travel allows us to explore, learn different cultures, and really it's different ways to improve overall well-being. My question is, based on your experience, what type of research topics do you think are in demand when we talk about international research?
Okay. If you're talking about research, so the field will be a lot more restricted internationally, right? And uh, you, uh, as I said, the two biggest grant makers are NSF and NIH in this area. But then with NIH, with NSF, um, there's so many, anything related to STEM is of their interest. NIH is interesting. A lot of time, um, especially for those of you who are criminologists, right? You have to understand that to CDC and NIH, violence, substance abuse, and juvenile delinquency are health problems, are health behaviors. So with that, boom, you'll find a lot of possibilities. And then it's always about international collaboration, right? You create a study, a multi-site studies with data collected in this country and two other countries, for example. And in the past, that I'm talking about 20 years ago, people took advantage of this because back then IRB regulations are not that well developed in a lot of developing countries, but now things are very different, right? But those are things that when it comes to problem solving projects, everything, anything. And Frank, you know, you said no to me the first time. So in public management, anti-corruption, over inspection and oversight, anything within the field of criminal justice or forensic sciences are huge. Climate change is a big one. It's probably the field that's attracting most funding, you know, uh, and every aspect of that problem, migration, emergency management, alert system, community campaigns, and so on. And then in more recent time, now conservation, biodiversity, then every single one of these issues has an criminal justice aspect, right? So we'll be talking about uh, illegal logging, wildlife trafficking, illegal mining, illegal fishing, all those big, important topics, themes that are receiving a lot of funding. Uh, Public health, big one. And Human development, child development, families, human rights, gender, a lot. And then European countries tend to be a lot more generous, uh, even though they're not as rich as America. But a lot of money is coming from Europe. And it's sometimes hard for us to get money from, for example, the European Union directly. But we can always work with some European university. I got funded to design and create some video games to measure problem kids around empathy and self-control, right? So the money came from Europe, from the European Union. I was working back then with La Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. I still remember when I was there, and they said, "Oh, are you a criminologist? We now have an international conference on terrorism here." I said, "Good, And they said, "We can put you in." Okay, wait, you're from New York? I said, "Yes." It turns out, that EU money can only be used to benefit EU schools or researchers in certain areas, right? Do you know what they did? So they created a name tag for me. It says Hong and Song, Professor John Jay College, United Kingdom. And they smiled me. So that was the first time that I saw how useful, capture of open source data, such as Twitter messages, can be used to understand the radicalization of youth. Um, it's always related to terrorism, right? And in that session, I only went to one session, and there was a group of engineers. There were no criminologists there. I was the only one. But coming back, there are certain fun. We have to be creative. This is similar to the question that Guido asked, right? When we cannot benefit directly from the funding, let's find a partner who can be the proxy and work things out. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Anyone have any interest in any particular area? We can always also let Marilyn know. For example, if I'm Marilyn, I specialize in any things related to law enforcement, and I speak French. Could you pay special attention to those RFPs coming, that are related to this issue, that target Francophone Africa? We had our colleague, I don't remember her name now, who's running our master's program in human rights. So she came to me and said, Hong, I do uh, human rights work in Mozambique and Zambia, some of those countries in that corner of Africa, and I do speak some French, and and of course English is used in those countries. So I said, okay, I'll take note of this, and then we'll switch our radars to capture signals from that corner. So that's something that you can do. You can talk to Marilyn and ask her to help you. Yes, Guido, you have is your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I have another one. I sort of know this, but maybe you can give us a better idea. Is there any limitations or preferences or any special rules when it comes to partnering with institutions in other countries? Meaning, does it have to be, for example, a university or a form of government? Could we, through your office, partner with national level institutions or maybe state/province level? Any sort of
Any group, no, there's no restrictions there, and anything that the grant maker allows, is good. And sometimes they will say, for example, UNODC, it's always there out there looking for money. Many people think that UNODC funds projects. No, they don't. They hire consultants all the time, but they rely on the UN agency that has billions of dollars, the UNDP, the UN Development Program, right? So they will be competing with us for money. But for example, Washington doesn't allow UN agencies to be competing, uh, you know, these bidding processes. So, no, any group that is not forbidden or banned by the grant maker is good. And also, Aida, now I want to let you know, and probably at some point I will have to request a meeting with people from your department, right? We have reached an agreement with the college because hiring our own colleagues, in a project, it's expensive in the sense that it will have to cover fringe benefits and the indirect charge at 69.5% of the personnel cost. So that means that if I pay Frank $100, I'll have to spend another 110 in fringe and indirect. So that makes a but the college has agreed to treat anything international as strategic. So we can have agreements with, with, for example, experts like you in languages, and then pay you directly and have the amount of money go to your paycheck without those extra charges. And that would make PIs more willing. That's a huge incentive for them to be working with it. And to me personally, I would want to involve more students. And that's something that we have failed so far, but we're going to change that. For example, in one of the project that we did, it's more related to again, capture of open source data, AI. We had a team of 21 people, including 8 students, but none of those 8 came from John Jay. They were all recruited in other countries. Um, Also because of time pressure, and then we needed people who could speak Portuguese and Spanish. But I see that as our failure that we haven't been able to involve more students in this, but that will change. It's my goal to rely on our students more. In the past, this past year, we rely on our students and graduates to perform simultaneous interpretation. With earphones. So I have a set of headsets and transmitters in my office, and we want to do that more often, so that they get a chance to practice, and they do a wonderful job. Amazing. Our students are good. Yeah. Yes, both. Yeah. All right. If there's no other questions, thank you for your time being here. I look forward to work with you, in the coming months or years. And believe me, it's fun and it's meaningful. It's rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.